Hi, I'm Vince, also known as PleasantKenobi on the internet, and today is Wednesday, so it's Warhammer Wednesday. And today's going to be the first video where I really knuckle down into some of the bollocks that Games Workshop keeps pulling. For those of you that have been long-time watchers of the channel and followed me from Magic to Warhammer, or followed both, you might know I'm quite a consumer advocate, and I will hold Wizards of the Coast to higher standards. I will hold them to account and I will point out where they fuck things up. Doesn't mean I dislike the company or the people that work there. I think Games Workshop do a relatively good job in making some incredible models and a very good game. In addition to that, before I continue, I just want to clarify that because I'm criticising one specific aspect that's been bugging me lately, it doesn't mean that I approve of other things they've been doing. I'm not going to go into massive detail about Curse City and the lies that they said prior to that coming out, and then the absolute travesty of dealing with it publicly in terms of communication. That was dog shit. I'm not going to deal with the supposedly underpaying because the person going about that on Twitter was talking about 5-year-old information. I don't have any current information, and I still don't agree with that either. It's just one of many, many things that pissed me off. And last, I'm not going to go into the GW controversies at the moment with Games Workshop ceasing and desisting animated and stuff because it's a much more nuanced conversation than I think people are giving it credit for. I'm not an intellectual property lawyer. Maybe I will do a video on it in the future, just unpacking it a little bit and talking through some of my thoughts, but I just want to hasten to add that all of those things I'm not in approval of. It's just the one that I'm talking about today, I feel like I can shed some more light on and point out that we can actually have an effect on this by not purchasing this shit. This is the bit where I'd normally hold the product up, one of the books of the Warzone Charadon, Book of Rust or Book of Fire, and say, this book is wank. But I don't own any of these books, and I plan to never own any of these books because, well, they're wank. I bought Be'lakor on release day and I painted him up because I've got a soft spot for Chaos Demons. I've been playing some Super alongside Thousand Suns. I love me some demons. The model was fucking cool. It's a modern retelling, reinvigoration of the Be'lakor model that I remember seeing as a kid in White Dwarf and in stores. Yeah, I'm fucking into it. Problem is, I don't play Age of Sigmar, and this came with no 40k rules in the box, not even a basic datasheet, let alone the abilities being missing. There was no way to pay Be'lakor when you got him in 40k, although they had told you there would be rules at some point in the future. Now, the naive Vince of the past thought maybe a Chaos Demons Codex was just around the corner, but instead, Be'lakor's datasheet was included in the Warzone Charadon 2. Act 2, Book of Fire. The name is also garbage, and I can never remember exactly how it's structured, but it's shit. The biggest problem with these books, and there's many problems that I'm going to unpack, but the biggest problem is keeping up to date with a hobby is difficult at the best of times. There are new books coming out all the time, there are FAQs to check if you've not been playing for a couple of weeks, and if any of the people watching this are Magic players, you know how frustrating it is to have perpetual hype and perpetual spoiler season. Because at least in Warhammer, you can ignore some armies that you don't play and you don't think you'll play against much. In Magic, every new set reinvigorates every deck and format, so it's frustrating. But at least you can ignore it a little bit in Warhammer. However, obviously the new codexes are coming for 9th edition, everyone wants the new rules and the new datasheets, and that's perfectly understandable. But what if you were to buy a 40k codex, let's say you're playing the Dark Eldar, the Dark Elves of Space, the Drukhari, the Sex Pests. Let's say you're playing Drukhari and you buy your book. Turns out that the week before the book came out, there was also another book that has rules for your army that integrate with the new book. So not only have you bought your new book that should allow you to play your army, but you're now missing the Cult of Strife stuff that makes your army really good because it was in a different book for some godforsaken fucking reason. And this happened with Admech too. I know that the first book that came out with the Drukhari rules and other bits came out a week before the Drukhari Codex, but the Admech book came out and then we had the Admech rules get updated like the next week in the next Warzone Charadon. So what are these fucking books that I'm talking about? Let's give some context before I go into any more details here. These are the Warzone books. They are GW licensed official add-on products for Warhammer 40k. They allow you to explore the opening acts of the Warzone Charadon campaign. They allow you to unleash the Imperial Defenders or whatever fucking shit they say on the website. And in essence, there's a lot of background, lore, and fluff. There's an in-depth campaign system if you want to play through the in-canon battles. There's a, and I quote, wealth of Crusade campaign content, which I'm going to just outright say isn't necessary. Like, who actually plays Crusade for more than a couple of games? The problem with Crusade is that the maintenance is so high and there's no good app to store your information. There's no point in playing Crusade. You gotta keep a fucking spreadsheet. I don't want to do any more work for this hobby. I don't want more fucking homework to play Warhammer 40k. And there's rules for match play, including Armies of Renown, which are new variants of old armies to allow you to, well, basically field a special version of the existing army. But also there are other bits that just improve some sub-factions outside of Armies of Renown as well, as we saw with this is a battle one, Order of our Martyred Lady, or whatever the normie vanilla flavour of Sisters is that boring people take. So this is a £35, let's say £30 if you're buying it from your local game store, a £30 book that has lore, campaign, crusade, which isn't quite campaign, they're different, and match play. So you can't really, it's not just aimed at one of those people, it's very obviously a predatory tactic to put a bit of everything in here, instead of releasing these separately as all the shit from the next the second one, the third, the fourth, the fifth. How many do they do? Splitting out all 5 of those books into like one for the lore, one for the campaign, just separating them out so you can buy the bit you need. If you're playing Crusade, buy the Crusade book. No, spread across all of them, because they want people to buy as many of these fucking things as they can. So what's the problem, Vince? Why is another book so bad? Why can't you just ignore it? Well, it brings you new rules to play. If you want to play in any competitive fashion, or even just keep abreast of the developments, you're going to have to know what the fuck is in these books. Now, some of you might be sat there thinking you're never going to play a tournament in your lives, and that's fine, but if you rock up to your game store and you haven't picked up your Book of Charadon that upgrades your faction, but someone else has, they're now playing with more access to more things than you have because they paid for the paid-for DLC, which is fucking shit. And this creates rules bloat too. One of the fundamental biggest problems this game has, of Warhammer 40k and tabletop wargaming in general, is there's so much to remember. The game pieces, like Bellicor here, don't have rules inherently on them like trading cards can. You look at Bellicor, you have no fucking idea what he does. You've got to look at 1 or 2 or perhaps 3 books in the case of some armies to figure out what the fuck the units do. And it's rules bloat. You don't need more books, especially this early on in 9th edition. You don't need to pick up your codex and already need to get a new book. New rules are cool, new rules are exciting, and new rules can sell models. That's an important thing for GW to do, right? They want to sell models and make money. But you don't want to release new rules for a faction the week before or the week after the main book comes out. That's super fucking feel bad. Now, of course, part of this might be scheduling issues around COVID, the pandemic, the backlog of freight traffic due to the rising cost and increase, the difficulty of scheduling during a global pandemic, the backup of the Suez Canal or whatever the fuck it was. I get that. But it doesn't mean that you can't, I don't know, wait. Just wait. Just put off the release of the Act books for another month or 2 to give us some breathing room or space. 8th edition had these books. As I came in, Psychic Awakening just came out for Blood Angels, I think it was. Mephiston just got launched just before I got back into the hobby. That was the back end, the arse end of 8th edition, that every army was getting an update via Psychic Awakening, which is cool. It breathes fresh air into perhaps a stale edition, and it helps the books that came out earlier in the edition to fight the books later in the edition. We're already seeing it now that somehow Space Marines went from being the top dog to being pretty fucking garbage, because they can't compete with the books that came out a month or 2 later. What they're going to do against late edition Tyranids or Tau, who knows? They need stuff like the Book of Charadons. But that's later in the edition. Updates later. Don't do it now. It's too fucking early. What the fuck are you doing? These scheduling issues, regardless of what caused them or if they're actually really scheduling issues, creates day 1 DLC. That means that instead of getting your entire Drukhari or Admech or Sisters of Battle, the 3 that have been affected by this, instead of getting the entire book on day 1, you're getting the entire book and some stuff that's been carved off and sold back to you elsewhere. This is a strategy we've seen in the video games industry for fucking years, where a game comes out on day 1, you can spend 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds on extra skins and add-ons and like cheat mode stuff that would have been codes that you put into the menu back in the mid-90s is now carved off and sold back to you via the in-game marketplace because it's a predatory tactic that makes money. And we've seen it in Magic too. They've, thank God, gone back on this, but they took expeditions away from us at one point to then give them back to us as paid for extras in more expensive boosters or secret layers and such. They gave us lottery cards, we enjoyed them, then they sold them to us separately as extra things instead of just being value added. And it fucking sucks. New rules are exciting. The idea of getting a new rule right now for Blood Angels, some new stuff, is exciting. But I shouldn't have that stuff taken away from me earlier on to be given back to me later for a premium price. It should be stuff that's included and then given later on where it's been developed later on as a way to improve the game ongoing. So Psychic Awakenings weren't that terrible, but there is a downside to all this as well. The Psychic Awakening books came quite late in 8th edition, and then 9th was around the corner, and some of those books were a month, 2 months, maybe 3 months old, and they were already out of date because 9th edition had come around. And we might see some of this with this stuff as well. What if we get an AdMech 2.0 codex to fix the current one later in the edition because they prove incredibly popular or something like that? Like they did with Marines in the 8th edition. Suddenly all the Charadon books you bought as well as your old codex are no longer valid. And there's an argument that the rules being in books you pay for is fucking nonsensical in the modern world anyway. Battlescribe and Warhammer exist, and if Napster proved anything, if you make things difficult to access, people will just pirate and or not buy the original. So this is just going to cut off your hand to spite your face in the long term as you make people not keen to buy your fucking books. And for the record, I'm a big supporter of codices. I love the fact that we get this book with this beautiful artwork. The photograph stuff's nice, that's all I need anyway. But the beautiful artwork, the background information and the lore, and then all the rules and stuff added in as well, and data sheets are nice, where you can look at your points totals and your weapons and stuff. I don't mind that it gets FAQ'd later, but having a hardback book to look through every couple of years is wonderful. It's something that I've kind of joked that I wish Magic had in somewhere, like an annual that I could pick up each year as a coffee table style art book to thumb through and be excited about. The new Orcs Codex got me super excited for Orcs. So I'm actually pro existing rulebook, even though I think the rules should be free to sell the models, but this whole multiple book thing per army is fucking nonsense, especially this early in the edition. And there's 2 more things to moan about. That's right, I'm not fucking finished. Well, I guess these factor into each other. So the first one is that both AdMech and Drukhari, at the time of their update via the Book of Charadon Rusty Bernie book thing, well, Drukhari, they were top dogs, and AdMech came out and suddenly knocked them off by being way too good. The AdMech Codex is redonkulous, and the rules team need their fucking heads knocked together. But the problem is, both of those armies, and Sisters to a lesser extent, being at the top tier armies, then got buffs in these books. So not only is there a rules bloat element, not only is there carving out section to sell back to you, but then they're selling back to you like positive, empowering elements like the Cult of Strife and the Vanguard detachment shit from the Army of Renown. Things that might just be the de facto best way to play those armies. That's A, pay to win, and B, it already exaggerates a problem with codex creep, where the new codexes are better than the old ones because of power creep, by giving them more rules. It's fucking stupid. These supplements should improve the older books against the new, not make the new shiny stuff coming out be even better. That's ridiculous. So there is this argument, should tournaments allow them at all? Would it be more balanced to not allow these extra supplemental stuff? And honestly, I say that's not good. People should be able to play with all the rules that are available to them if they are balanced. Yeah, AdMech needs some balancing, but I don't think banning them at tournaments is a good idea. What I would like to see is an official stance where you don't have to have these books to hand to play with them. Because as far as I understand it, I'm new to the competitive scene. I've got to take the books that I'm playing with along with me in my bag to have as, reference material for my opponent to have a look at and to help with rules disputes and stuff. And I think with these books, we should just rely on Wikipedia. We should take a stand. Tournaments shouldn't require you to have them. You shouldn't need to buy them. Fuck them off. If we don't buy them, they'll stop doing this. Because this is very predatory. And this is coming from a guy who covers trading card games for a living, and wizards who have been incredibly greedy in recent times with things like secret lairs and fetch lands and shit. So for me to say this is predatory coming from that background, well, yeah, it's not great. So to summarise, this is a bit longer than I wanted it to be, but I genuinely believe the Warzone Charadon books are complete and utter fucking wank. There might be some great rules writing in them, maybe more balanced than the actual codexes. There might be some wonderful lore, photography, artwork. There might be some really good stuff in those books. But the very format, the nature by which they're given to us, the release schedule for them, it completely nullifies any of that good stuff and makes them shit. I'm all for updates to rules, but you can't be updating a book that just came out. FAQs are fine, but giving them additional rules in another book is quite frankly disgusting, and it needs to stop. So what do you think? Have I been too harsh on these stupid fucking books, or am I on the money? But this isn't really a controversial point that I'm making. I think a lot of people feel the way I do. I just want to verbalise it a little bit after looking at one of them today. I've been Vince, also PleasantKenobi on the internet. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, smash that bell, subscribe, and all that fucking good shit. It really makes my balls tingle. Yeah, Let me know in the comment section below what you think, and I'll see you in the next one. Ta-ta for now.